original Season 3, Episode 7, Out of the Easy. Now, this was an interesting episode because not only was, like, the main storyline pretty interesting because we have everyone at this table, we have our three-sided characters, so we have Tristan, Aurora, and Lucian, and they're all kind of throwing out their little secrets, and they get busted for, working together with, Tristan and Lucian. So it's like, alright, so we've been busted, we lied because we thought it would be more comfortable, which they were lying when they said that. Lucian finds out that Aurora has Rebecca's body, which kind of throws him off. Then there's threats all over the place. It's like, oh, you can't kill my brother because he has half the secret, I have the other half of the secret. You can't hurt me. Like, Lucian's like, oh, well, don't hurt me because I still have Cammy, so you might want to relax on that one too. So everything, I liked how it kept going kind of back and forth. It was like Elijah and Klaus had their initial idea. It started to work at first, and then it kind of broke down because, either from Rebecca being taken or Camille being taken. I was surprised also they went back to the old school I would toss him in the ocean thing, because that was like, I think that was when they like daggered Klaus or somebody, like in the Vampire Diaries, the very first time they started doing that. That was the big thing. Like, Elijah was like, I'm gonna put him in the ocean or something. So it was kind of cool that they actually did that again, because that's kind of the ultimate thing. Is like, all right, toss him in the ocean, no one can find him. Still sucks for Rebecca that she got daggered and then she's just down in the water. But that's what Aurora thought was the best idea. Keep them separated. Aurora super jealous of Cammy. Like, her name got dropped twice, and she was about ready to flip out, which of course came to fruition towards the end because she kidnapped Cammy, and who knows, I'm sure Cammy will survive, so I'm not exactly worried, but she'll probably get tortured at least a little bit because Aurora will instantly not like her. But it was crazy how the relationship dynamics just kept going back and forth. Whether, just in general relationships, not even like actually being together. It was just interesting. It was like, okay, with Tristan, when he was with Klaus, it's like, look, we'll put your family down. You can watch over them. Simple as that. With Lucian talking to Elijah, it's like, look, he's going to turn on you. You should be worried. Like, I don't know why you should possibly be worried. There's this giant picture in the wall. That's all. No big deal. But I don't know why. So everyone had like a little plan where it could have worked, but ultimately no one's plan worked, and Klaus just broke a neck and was like, look, I'm pissed off. Get my sister or your brother will die, period. I love that he did that because I didn't want them to kind of have to cower in fear a little bit, and ultimately they could technically search themselves. It would take forever, but they could technically do it. They do have a lifetime. It would just be very boring, and just they'd have to find their sister somehow. But they could technically do it, but instead, and the plan was working too, which sucks. It was like the plan was working 100%, and, as Lucian so elegantly put it, it's like, well, if she stayed here and did what she was supposed to, she'd be fine. But of course, Cammy being, in my case, I thought it was super awesome. She chops the guy's fingers off, which is also kind of gross because they don't ever do anything like that. It's like, the most we see is, oh, here's a little bit of blood or whatever. But they showed her, like, chop off some fake fingers. I was like, that's pretty cool for the show. Like, that's, as weird as it is, that's probably the farthest they've ever gone, even though they've, like, broken necks and stuff. It was like, they actually had her chop off some fake fingers and blood came out and everything. And it was genius. I love that scene. She tricks the guy, chops his finger off with his daylight ring, and she gets out of there, which, to be totally honest, I didn't think was smart, because it's like, okay, I know she's trying to escape, but there was no sunlight in that little hallway. Like, if he just ran around or something, which admittedly he totally could have done, because they can run through sunlight and it's like nothing. Like, it's not like that whole room was even lit up, to be totally honest. He could have like flipped the table over and technically he would have been fine. But the way they did it, either way, I was like, I didn't think it made a lot of sense. But ultimately she gets to the elevator, it opens up. I thought it was just going to end up being Klaus and Lucian, and then they'd have like their whole little thing, but it wouldn't matter because she'd, get out. And then instead it's Aurora, and Cammy's been kidnapped, she may or may not end up having one of her little episodes with, which even Lucian mentions in this one, and it's like, oh, things are fine until you have one of your little episodes, and it kind of screws up the entire plan. Or maybe it was either Lucian or Tristan. One of them mentioned it because they both know she's kind of got her little issues. So it was an interesting episode. I would say this was a really good one for sure because of kind of the mental aspect of things is what made this such a fun episode. Of course, Freya wasn't able to find Rebecca, so she kind of enlists Haley's help, and it's like, okay, we're gonna torture Aurora and get all the info that we need. Unfortunately, that leads to the reveal of the whole, what was in the 2 envelopes thing. So, yeah, it kind of ends it. But Klaus is just like, don't give a crap. And sadly now it's kind of even again because it's like, alright, so she has Cammy, they have Tristan, now it, stalemate again. But we'll see where it goes. Most likely, Tristan won't die. He's one of the somethings. I don't know if I can even call him a villain. It's honestly so ambiguous with these 3 characters. It's like we have 3 villains, but at the same time we don't have any villains because technically they don't want to kill the originals whatsoever. So it's like they aren't exactly villains, but they are bad because it's like, okay, if Rebecca's here, then they would have all 3 of them, and they would kill anyone that got in their way to put all 3 of them down permanently. So it's like they're still antagonists, but they aren't exactly the bad guys. So it's interesting how that works out, but I enjoyed it. I really liked it. We had a little bit of a rift between Haley and Jack because Haley wasn't there for Thanksgiving dinner, which I find amazing that even matters because it still blows my mind that there's never anybody there. They talk about the pack and everything. No one's ever there with Hope. It's the 3 of them. Always thought that was weird, especially because they put it in dialogue where Jack was like, we'll have the whole pack protecting her. That was like one of his big things he said to Klaus, like, she won't just be, across the street, and you won't be in there, you won't be allowed in, but the entire pack will be there to protect her. There is no one ever in that house. Like, I don't understand how that works. Like, it was weird that they did that, and it seems like they completely ignored that idea because they would just need a bunch of other actors, I guess. I don't know. But every time I see it, it's like, there's never anybody there. They don't. It's the 3 of them, and if they just said that to begin with, it would have been fine. But they made it seem like, oh, we're going to have everyone, or at least as many people as we can fit from the pack in our home, because, we all live together as a pack. And that was definitely not the case. And Jack was even like, I'm leaving to go to the bayou to be with the pack. And it's like, just every time they talk about it, even every time I see it, they don't even have to talk about it. I just remember him saying that to Klaus, like, the whole pack will be there to protect her, and it's just always the 3 of them. It's like, they shouldn't have put that little bit of dialogue in. But, they have their little riff. I'm sure that'll be fine. It wasn't a big deal for the episode, but Jack was a little upset that she wasn't there. That's all he really cared about was just them having a sort of family Thanksgiving, and that was pretty much it. And I don't know if he really stepped over a line, but it was kind of harsh. I guess he did, but he mentions, like, you have us, but whenever the Michelsons call, you just run straight to them as if, you're actually family when really you're not. And she's technically not, but Rebecca, is her friend. She did definitely take care of Hope, so she, without a doubt, had merit to say the stuff that she said. But Jack was feeling a little hurt, so that'll resolve itself in like maybe 3 episodes or something. It won't even remotely matter. But the other half of the storyline, which will totally matter in future episodes, is Davina officially being shunned by her coven, which I was not expecting. I knew Vincent was going to try to convince her. I didn't think he was going to out her. And ultimately, the repercussions aren't that bad. I mean, I know she didn't. Granted, I'm not like a witch or anything, so I don't know what it was like to be cast out of the coven. But considering she got like a dozen people killed, I think she's okay. I mean, she's cut off from the ancestors and stuff, but she can technically still do magic on her own. She just won't be as powerful. But it was kind of like, okay, that's not as bad as I was thinking. And I know they mentioned the whole getting erased thing, but I seriously thought they would have tried to kill her. It was just like, oh, you suck. they did literally turn their backs on her. I wasn't expecting that. Like, she walks through everyone, and it's just like, I turned my back on thee, and they just all turn around. I was like, oh man, that's like old school harsh, and I thought that was kind of funny watching that. But it was surprising to see Vincent do that. I didn't expect him to try to like help her in that way, but he does it, and I'm sure it'll come into play where whoever takes over is going to be sort of a big deal as far as the series goes. They may or may not attack the originals, which I don't think they will, but who knows? Who knows? Like, Davina was kind of just keeping things separated because they've kind of, with everything that's happened, like the Guerrero werewolves and, their mother coming back and all the craziness, everyone's kind of just stayed separated at this point and just been like, we have our own thing happening, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So they probably, I'm sure they'll still be a big part of it because Davina's like the main character witch, but obviously she's cut off from all the magic and all that stuff. So whoever takes over is going to be important to the series, but maybe not until like towards the end of the season, and probably not really important until the next season. But that was a big deal. Now she's kind of just separated. But I could be wrong about her being able to use magic, but I'm pretty sure she can still do magic, even though she's technically cut off from the ancestors. But they always talk about how the ancestors are the reason that everyone currently can do magic, and she's technically cut off, but I think that just means she doesn't have that personal connection, which she only had as the regent anyway, so I think she'll still be fine. She can still do her magic. She's just kind of sadly shunned completely by her people, and it's like she basically never existed, and that's kind of harsh. That is one of the things where it's like, especially when you're in the position of power and you were, the big thing, and then you're actually shunned and erased from existence as a regent. That has to be a huge deal, and probably only happened a couple times, if ever, before, which I guess you wouldn't know because people were erased. So that does kind of suck for her character, and now she's, kind of on her own. She may or may not blame Marcel for trying to get help from Vincent, but we'll see how it all plays out. The Strix will probably still go after her, even though she doesn't have the same amount of power that she had before. They still might try to use her, and maybe that's how the new person will end up becoming important, because they won't have any ties to Klaus, and it'll just be like, alright, taking them down. I don't know if it'll actually be the guy whose mother was killed, but who knows? Like, that might be what happens. They work with the Strix to take out the originals, and then it was like, alright, they're done. You guys can leave the town too, and then they get basically all their territory back because, they probably just kill Marcel in the process, or, they try to. It won't happen, but however they're going to do it, I think they'll probably end up using whoever the new regent becomes, if they don't still decide to go after Davina now that she has no connection. But really enjoyed the episode. Looking forward to what they end up doing in this next one. I don't really know what to expect. I mean, it's kind of even ground now with Cammy having been kidnapped, so each side, has some leverage, and we just have to see how it goes. But they're going to be torturing Tristan a lot. That seemed to be like a big deal for the next episode, but I'm looking forward to it. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this one, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I really want to know what you guys think of Davina actually being caught in this episode. I did not expect that whatsoever, to be totally honest. So I want to know what you guys think about it, how you think it might affect the show, if you prefer if she stayed the regent, if you don't really care that she was shunned. Ultimately, she didn't get like any time to really have that role to herself. Unfortunately, that was like something I was kind of looking forward to, that she had her own little storyline, and she still does, but it's like, man, that kind of sucks. She didn't have like that powerful storyline like I was hoping, where she was just in power and could do whatever. She kind of got shunned real fast, and now she's kind of a loner again. And man, she's had like the worst history of any witch, I think, because she was the last one who didn't get sacrificed beforehand, so she became super powerful. I can't remember the name of that ritual that they were doing, but she was the last one left. She vanished for a long time, being up in the attic and everything. Then she's got control over Klaus's dad and all this other stuff that wasn't exactly favored by the ancestors. And then she's the regent, and then she's shunned. So she's had a pretty crappy history as a witch. But I'm looking forward to where things are going. And like I said, I want to know how you guys think that's going to affect the series continuing on from this episode. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.